So I'm so happy to introduce you to my friend Andy. Andy, take it away.
Hey everybody, nice meeting everyone. Thanks for taking the time this evening. Yeah, so my name is Andy Newton. I am currently the Director of Acquisitions here at Property Force. Born and raised in Miami. My formative years are Liberty City, which is kind of like Miami Beach, except the complete opposite. So no water and no wealth, right? So it's definitely a situation where, as I like to say, it's easy to become a statistic. But thanks to people like Hernan earlier on in my life, as like it's like pushing me in the right direction. It really made a big difference, and that's one of the reasons why I like to do things like this. Obviously, you all are beyond that point, but at this point in your careers as well, it's extremely important to understand how to move and the types of moves you can make in your career, and some real raw honest things that you can expect, right? So I know a lot of these things, you feel free to ask whatever questions you want. I'm going to make a commitment to not cursing because I do curse a lot, so I won't curse tonight. But whatever you guys want to know, feel free to ask. But really digging into it to touch base on what Hernan mentioned, my recent career change. So interestingly enough, I was actually here at Property Force before, which is a real estate fintech, and then I got an offer from a payments fintech, and I took that offer, and then I got recruited back here, right? And a big part of that is knowing what you want to do, right? So I had a couple of different options, got a bunch of different offers because, the job market's still hot right now, but I was getting offers literally like every single day, people working next to me, different companies. This is one of my team members right there going home. You always got to say goodnight to your people. First rule of business. The people working for you, always say good morning to them and always say goodnight. So the job offers were coming in left and right. And I was like, hey, I want to do real estate, right? More importantly, this is a place that really fit my personality, right? So I can do the buttoned up thing, I love it, but I'm more of a, entrepreneurial, be authentic type of person. And at this place, that's literally one of the company's core tenets, right? It's literally be authentic. So I came back, as I like to say, I came back home, and things have been awesome. As far as my career journey, I've done everything from, I was in the music business for a while. I had a record label that was assigned to Sony for a little bit. Another business lesson, make sure you have a wider portfolio, because when you have one person, the person goes crazy. Your whole business goes crazy too. I had a shipping company for 7 years, and I've also worked in finance with American Express, and I was in tech with Comcast for 9 years as well. So I know it sounds like I have a lot of people say when they look at my resume, it's like I'm like 60 or 70 years old. I'm only 37, right? But I've done a lot. And a lot of that has been a lot of risk taking. And people always say, oh, you make it look so easy. It's not, right? I'm scared a lot, but you just do it anyway. You grab life and you just say, hey, it's going to work out. Whatever happens is going to happen. And coming from where I'm from, and when you think about the things that, for those of you who are in tough situations or grew up in tough situations, or even for those of you who aren't, maybe you're like second or third generation, like where, hey, like my family's been doing pretty well for a while, right? Look back at the people in your family, even if you haven't been through something personally, where you can say, my family made it through this and I can do this because this is what I'm made of. Or if you've been through something, right, you look at yourself and you say, well, I've been through this, right? Like, what's this problem? Like, I've been fired before, right? It's not a big deal, right? Like I was like, hey, I've been fired. Okay, what am I going to do now? I started a company, all right? I've been promoted, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, I got promoted. Well, guess what now? It's like making it to the NBA, right? As Kobe said, now the real work starts, right? You got the job. Now you have to keep your seat at the table. You've already shown that you belong there. Are you going to put in the work to make sure you can stay there and go to the next level? So that's a quick brief intro, because I know we're not going to be here for several hours, and I know I can talk for a while. So let's go ahead and get started. So I don't know who wants to ask the first question, or Hernan, where do you want to go?
Yeah, so thank you. Andy, so there's three things that I wanted you to share, if you can, with the team. So one of them is office politics. This might be fresh in your mind. So what do you
Yes.
say about about office politics. What advice can you give people about this subject?
Yeah, so office politics are a real thing, okay? Anyone tell like they're gonna any company you go to, right? Including this is a great company, all right? Including this place, even here at a place where you're being authentic, we get along, we go have drinks at lunch, we go have drinks after work. A bunch of us just came back from Mexico. I know the guy who's closing a deal right now across from me, I know his wife and his kids, right? Office politics is still a real thing. Why? Because we are human beings, okay? Whatever you can expect from human nature, no matter how great the environment, it's important to understand it's going to be a part of it. Now, your company's culture and you as a person are going to be a big factor in how much it impacts you and how it impacts the work in the environment. But office politics can be a very real thing. And sometimes you can find yourself in an environment where you're like, hey, these politics can be a little toxic. And sometimes you'll find yourself in an environment where you're like, hey, this is a great environment, but it's still important, right? So let's say you're in a great environment. You love your job, right? But you're the person who doesn't come in at 7:45, right? Everybody else gets there at 8, okay? And you're putting in the work. If everybody else gets there at 7:45 who you're in competition with, somebody who's probably not even doing as well as you are will just will get the opportunity because they showed up at 7:45. And guess what? The owner of the company just likes people who show up early, right? So you look completely different in that light, okay? Then that's another part of when it comes to managing relationships. When do I say something and when do I handle something with just a peer? Okay. So, for instance, me and Ibrahima, we're working a deal together, or there's some kind of conflict that we have, right? Do I just go to my superior and say, hey, Ibrahima's done this XYZ. I'd like somebody to speak with him. Guess what? You've seen it in movies. You've heard it on TV shows. I've been in the biggest room in some of the rooms with some of the smartest people, and guess what word still comes up? Snitch. That's what they're gonna call you behind your back, right? It's gonna, and I'm just being honest with you. Like, there's gonna be a point where it's like, okay, you could have come to me with this. Now, that's something small. Now, if I do something to you that's super aggressive and completely out of line, and you're like, hey, this is not apropos at all, then maybe that is something you escalate to a superior. But that is something that we see in the workplace consistently, where we look at people and say, well, is this not something you could have handled on your own? Or is this something that you now become something where we have to be mindful of, is this person going to be a concern for us moving forward? Because they brought to us that Ibrahim, like I went to Hernan and said, Ibrahima ate my lunch in the fridge. And I'm like, we're sitting here trying to make $1 billion this year. Why'd you bring this to me, right? Versus I had a deal that was worth $500,000. Ibrahima called my client and did this. That's a different angle, okay? So office politics are a real thing. Even when you're dealing in companies, think of high school, okay? You're dealing with very smart people, PhDs, millionaires. Think of like high level high school politics, and it's very similar. Think about situations that you're seeing right now in our government, okay? I have literally been in a situation where we came up with a $15 million solution for our customers. And because our VP presented it ahead of the VP whose department's problem it was, his team came up with a completely different analysis as to why the problem didn't work and shut the idea down, because they were both in competition for the next executive board position. These are real things, right? So how do we get past office politics? Relationships, okay? Everything is about relationships. Now, I want to be 100% clear. I'm not telling you to take abuse. I'm not telling you to do anything immoral, right? What I'm telling you is when you put yourself out there as somebody who says, okay, I can trust this person, okay? And I know where this person stands, you will normally find yourself in a position where people will understand how to deal with you. And where people know where you stand, it makes it easier to deal with you and they'll trust you more, right? So let's take Carla, for example. I'm working a project or I'm dealing with a tough situation. I know that I can go to Carla and ask this particular question. I know that it won't get out to anyone else, right? That's important. As this reputation builds for Carla, when the CEO has something to discuss and they want to know how the team's going to feel about it, who's going to be the trusted person on the front line they're going to come to? They're going to come to Carla because of that trust. That trust then says, okay, we're not going to have this meeting. All of our big executives are going to come in. All of our brand partners are going to come in. Who can we trust to make the company look good? It's Carla. All of a sudden, everybody's looking around. How did Carla get all these opportunities? Because people know that they can trust her. Okay. So that's another big part of office politics and how you navigate them. When people know they can trust you, they know and they know where you stand, you'll normally won't find yourself in as many awkward positions. When people know you can be easily manipulated or you're kind of a flake, that's when they'll start to, hey, I want you on this side, I want you on that side. Now you're stuck in between the two groups without you having people know that you'll say, this is what I think, and understanding how to explain yourself and stand your ground on that. So that's really important. The other part of relationships too is like Ignacio was saying, look, it's about getting to know people. Okay, go have a lunch. All right, go have a coffee. All those, for those of you who are going to be in some larger companies, like I know Madison was saying she's going to be at BNY, right? Melon, you need to be in every employee group. You need to understand, because this is where you'll start to see, okay, this person who sits at the back of the room and doesn't ever actually say anything, this is a power player. Oh, this is this person's assistant or this person's assistant vice president. While I understand that this person makes the decision, their assistant vice president is actually the person who filters through every single project idea before it gets to that person. And if I want to connect with the executive vice president and the CEO, I need to actually be cool with the assistant vice president who's your right-hand man or woman, right? All these different things play into it. But the key thing about office politics, like I said, it comes down to your own character and you building trust amongst people. And once you have that, that makes life a lot easier for you in the corporate environment.
Man, you gave a lot there. Yeah. Awesome. So talk to me about, you said you came from the opposite of Miami Beach, you call it, right?
Yeah.
It's very true. Diversity, it's a big buzzword nowadays, but I want it real from your perspective. How do you deal with, people that are from all over, in different places? So you want to share some advice here?
Yeah, 100%. So when it comes to that, that's really where it comes down to taking a step back and just saying, let me go ahead and try to get to know this person. And it's very uncomfortable, right? I've been the only Black person in an office full of Russians, right? That is a very interesting dynamic because you're sitting in the room and literally every single person is speaking a different language except when they speak to you. Okay. So now you're like, what's going on? Right. So that's a big thing, right? I've also been in a room full of men, and we have, very similar to what we have now. We have more diversity here now, but I've also been in a room full of men where there's one woman on the entire team, right? And then you're sitting there and let's say this woman gets hired and you're like, well, how am I going to adjust to this? Then in that moment, you automatically have to catch yourself and say, well, I'm actually kind of contributing to the problem right now because I'm automatically thinking about how to act and treat her differently because she's a woman, right? So these are things that you have to catch yourself on and be like, hey, I'm a person who's not embracing diversity. And it's the other side too, where you have to say, hey, look, I'm the diverse person in this particular room. How am I going to adapt to this, right? So when it comes to workplace diversity, first of all of you are going to be future leaders. Make sure you make it a big part of what your plan is, right? So obviously you have to hire people on their merits, but also make sure like you should be interviewing women, right? You should be interviewing minorities, right? And one thing that I've seen as well, like I work on some special projects in the community and we have like no white people in the group. I'll be honest with you, right? So I remember we had an event the other night and we had an extra spot and I said, hey, look, like we have a group here of young African-American males who never get a chance to speak to an adult white male who are from where we're from. which is one of the scariest things that can happen when you're from the inner city of North America, right? So we brought this guy in, and it was literally one of the first times that a 15-year-old kid had like a one-on-one conversation with a white male. Literally, I know it sounds crazy, like we're here in Miami, but this is a real thing that still happens today, right? So when we're talking about diversity, it's about being intentional about making sure that it occurs, right? Down to religion. Like I was born and raised a Christian, born and raised Catholic, right? My first time being around Jewish people and Muslim people was like my senior year of high school, and getting to know the religion and be like, yo, tell me about this, right? Like tell me like about Allah, tell me about like, like you got like you believe in Jesus, but you're not necessarily like, but he's not the savior. I've had atheist friends, agnostic friends tell me like what that's like. Honestly wanting to have these conversations and then letting your guard down. Okay. Now, when it comes to letting your guard down, when it comes to workplace diversity, that goes both ways. All right. So if I am letting my guard down with you, whether it be for gender, race, creed, whatever the case may be, or just mindset on different things, I have to allow you to reciprocate that. You have to be able to reciprocate that to me as well. Right. So for instance, this is something you all may experience, right? You'll work with someone who's from a place that literally has zero diversity, right? So there are places here in North America and other parts of the world where there's literally just, you look around, there's not a Hispanic person. It just doesn't exist, right? There's not a Black person. There's not a white person around, right? There's not an Indian person, right? There's no Asian people around. I remember one of the biggest culture shocks for me was actually going from Miami when I lived in Los Angeles for a year. And it was like how many Asian people I saw for the first time in my life, right? I had 2 Asian friends growing up, probably saw maybe 15 my whole life. I land in Los Angeles and Asian people are everywhere, right? And these are real things. So now you have to say to yourself, what's actually happening here? And how am I going to make sure that when I'm in this environment that I actually get to learn about the people? So if I talk to one of my friends from, we have some folks in my company here from the Midwest, and they'll say things like, oh, I've never heard of this, right? Or like, they'll say something like about a food or like about a music, right? And it's not offensive. They literally have just never heard of it before. It's no different than when one of my new employees was literally just like, oh, I'm going to a John Party or a Joe Party concert, right? And I'm trying to get to know this guy. And I'm like, who the heck is Joe Party? Apparently, this guy is one of the biggest country singers in the world. I know nothing. I've never heard about this guy in my entire life. He's telling me this guy has millions of fans. So we had an hour-long conversation about country music. Why? Because, yeah, he's my employee, but I want to get to know him. I don't know anything about the Midwest. I'm a city boy. So I want to get to know people. And that's where that trust and relationship comes in. Because some of the biggest deals I've closed in my life are simply because people know that I actually cared about them. And when people know that you care about them, guess what? They like you, okay? So it leads to business, it leads to opportunity. So diversity, workplace diversity is truly about being able to accept people for who they are truly, okay? When I worked at American Express in finance, I'll never forget, they moved my office, and there was this woman came in next to me, and she was moving her desk the same day. And there's like she pops up tattoos on the neck and everything. And I have tattoos too, so I'm not judging, right? But like, this was like neck tattoos, face tattoos and everything. Who knows? She's a mathematical genius, right? That's diversity too. I could have looked at her and be like, how'd she get the job, right? That's not the case. I look at her, I'm like, well, let's do it. Let me find out about the tats. Next thing I find out what kind of rock music she's into, all kinds of stuff like that. We became best of friends for the 2 years that we worked together. Right. So diversity means a lot of different things, but you have to be intentional about accepting people. And as you all grow your companies, your own businesses, and grow your own careers, you have to be intentional about bringing people in. And as a father of 2 girls, let me tell you, especially for the men, when it comes to the women, be intentional about seeking out female talent, and don't just like talk smack about it. Like, mentor women, like offer opportunities and show people in the company what you're talking about, and put it out that your company is really serious about diversity and it's not just lip service. And your company will be in a much better place overall. One of my mentors in real estate, he always says every business he starts, he just hires women. That's it. So think about that. And the guy's worth like $3 billion. Okay. So every business he starts, the CEO of his company is a woman. And he's like, he's not even doing it on purpose. It's just how it works out, right? Men are great too, obviously, but when you think about it, how much talent are you missing out on if you're not really focused in on diversity?
Yeah, diverse point of views is also important, no?
Mhm.
You get stuck in a problem, and then all of a sudden somebody with a diverse background comes about it a different way, and then all of a sudden you have the solution, right? So that's why it's awesome to strive to meet as many people as possible. By the way, this is a great way of doing it as well, right? This is a training ground for all of us that are here. Lastly, Andy, man, with this pandemic, I know we went remote. Now we're back into physical. For some people, particularly, senior executives, it's a hard time dealing with people remotely. They think people are goofing off, and the opposite is, we as employees, we want some flexibility. Man, what advice can you give people that want to stay remote, but when their boss starts bugging them to come physically, why is that? And
Yeah.
and how do you deal with remote workers, for people all over, and what do you expect from them?
So my remote workers, I mean, they're some of my top performers right now, right? And I love it. So one of the things we do culturally is we play all kinds of games. We have like these weird sessions, like so mine is called Adventures with Andy, right? So we just pick random places, different things we want to do. Like there's one thing I want to do called Drive Tank. It's on drivetanks.com, and you fly to Texas and you shoot off. You literally get to get in a military tank and you get to like shoot off cannons everywhere, right? So that just sounds like something cool to do to me. So I want to do it, right? So we're gonna have like a company meeting where I'm gonna bring that up, and everybody else is gonna just talk about cool things they want to do. Then we have Jeopardy, right? So it's Jeopardy, but it's a parody of Jeopardy, so it's Jeopardy. So like, it's like once a month we play this Jeopardy game. And then it's a competition, and we have like a quarterly end of a Jeopardy like champion, and then that person gets a prize for the company, and it's everything from company facts where it's educational. So the last one we did was on Disney, Marvel movies, and like random other films. We had a poker night, right? So obviously, I know a lot of you guys are probably under the legal drinking age right now, but we we had a virtual poker night. We shipped alcohol to everyone's house. We played poker. Company put up real money, right? And everybody just had a good time playing poker with each other. And then we do this other thing weekly called the John with George, is one of the other guys here, and he leads a session where every Friday for an hour we just talk smack. That's it. Like we kind of, like I said, company culture is important. Don't do this at all your companies, because especially like at a bank, some of the other big companies you guys working at, you probably get fired. But make sure that it's culture apropos, okay? But in our culture, it's cool. Like we razz on each other a little bit, and we just talk about random things like gas prices and like what people are planning on doing on the weekend, and that's literally an hour, and it's like 50 people in a room going going crazy, in a Zoom room. So it's really cool. With remote workers, who you are as a person and what you show is important, right? And just to be 100% honest with you guys, every slip for a remote worker, if you're remote, is magnified 100x. If you're late to a meeting, it's like being late to 10 meetings. If you miss a day of work, it's like missing 5 days of work, okay? So that's an honest assessment for you. And if you are, let's say, trying to get promoted, you need to show more results, right? Because guess what? There's nothing like this. I can go have lunch with you. I can be right in your face, right? And just my honest piece of advice, getting promoted remote isn't impossible. But if you tell me right now that you want to be the CEO of a company, if you tell me right now, like you're working for Madi Carmen's company, and Madi Carmen, are you in Puerto Rico, or you run your business remote?
Well, I'm in Puerto Rico, but a lot of times I work from home.
Okay, so she's in Puerto Rico, right? If you tell me right now that she's gonna hire you in New York, you can do a really great job. I can tell you for a fact, if you move to Puerto Rico, things are probably not guaranteeing anything, but just ask yourself, right? It's like a relationship. We can have a long distance relationship, but nothing's like when I come home to you every night and say, "Hi, honey." You know what I'm saying? It's a big deal, because human connection, no matter how remote we get, is the most important thing that we have. And if I'm going to trust you with more responsibility, I need to be able to look you in the eye. I was just at a real estate prop tech conference. We had a massive tech conference here. Hernan went, some other folks went, called Emerge in April, okay? Every big tech company in the world was here. And we had a real estate section of it. There was an offshoot, another part of Miami. And one guy was specifically, like, I'm not going to say the company's name because obviously this is information that is probably out there, but I don't want to be the person to put it out there. So he literally says big companies are specifically designing and looking for real estate space that will allow their employees to feel like they're at a hotel while it's still an office building because they want people back in work within 5 years. That's what's actually happening. They're making plans and they're going to make it so nice for you to come to work that you won't even have a choice, right? You're going to drive up to a building. It's going to scan a code on your car. The gate's going to open. The elevator is going to take you to the floor in this building. And the soda machine is going to know exactly what your favorite soda is. As soon as you walk up and scan your badge, it's going to pour right into the cup and your office door is going to open for you when you walk in. This is the type of tech experience you're trying to create to try to get people back at home. Is it cheaper? Yes, but I can tell you right now, especially for smaller companies, like right now, our company, we're pushing towards $1 billion valuation. We have some very successful remote workers. Everybody who's here locally is expected to be here. You can work from home 1 day a week, right? Because we've noticed that while we can have success, there is a significant difference in revenue production per person versus in office and out of the office. And when you're trying to build a culture, yes, you can do it remote, but it's just a hell of a lot easier to do it when I can see you every single day. I can look you in the eye and be like, hey, what's up, right? Like if your camera's off on the Zoom meeting and you're having a bad day, I don't know. I can't walk over to you and be like, hey, let's go to lunch. Let's grab a beer. Oh, you're struggling with your wife right now. Let's get you the family counseling. Oh, you're not feeling that well. Go home and take a couple of days off, right? But I get to have this conversation with you and build that kind of loyalty and equity with you as a person, which is just not something I can do remote. So I love remote work. Believe me, I'm all for it. I'm all for the freedom of choice. I'm all for being able to stay at home. I'm telling you right now, if you're really trying to move your career, it's not impossible, but especially the bigger the company, think about who you're in competition with. Especially some of you guys are at really big organizations. You're dealing with savages. That's the most polite way I can put it, okay? As hungry as you are to be successful, take someone else and they'll be even hungrier. And there's always somebody who's hungrier, okay? So that's the mindset you need to have. I need to be in your face, in the building, executing on a day-to-day business depending on what my career path is. Now, if I'm just cool being an accountant, cranking numbers in the back room somewhere for my next 10 years of my career, and you pay me my 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 grand a year, or if I'm a software developer, I'm a top-notch software developer, and you're going to cut me a check for $250 a year and leave me alone, if that's you, great. If you're saying, I want to be the head of Google, I want to be the head of this bank, I want to be the head of this tech firm, you need to be in the office. And case in point, all the companies that let us out of the office are now pushing their people back, right? So that's the honest truth. And some companies are permanently remote, but nobody's gonna have as much opportunity as somebody who's at the home office doing their thing.
Thanks, bro. This is all real, right? One of the things that I tell my people is, you cannot be irresponsible if you're remote. Period. We don't have any time to lose. If you drop the ball, it wastes time because we have to meet another week and another week. By the way, great advice. If you're following up with your mentor, one of the things that I recommend, the same thing with your bosses, is you manage your boss. The first thing that I do every Monday morning is I call my boss. Bro, what do you need? And he's a friend of mine. Anything that you need this week, anything that you have a priority, let me know. I can help you. If he said, no, you're fine. And I tell him, this is what I'm working on. This. Is there anything that I can help you with? That shows that he knows what I'm working on. Number one, he can shift my priorities. And number two, I can take away some of the pressure that he has so that he can focus on managing resources for our team. No? So that shows initiative. And we're going to talk a little bit about, initiative, resilience, and all this stuff in future meetings. But this is key when managing people remotely. The expectation is different. Is you have to be responsible, overly communicative. Unfortunately, if you don't do that, the competition is brutal. I had one boss tell me in my face, he told me, you know what, Hernan, you complain about the things in this place, I can put the entire wall, and when it was a pretty big wall, full of resumes of people that want your position. And that kind of shocked me, but the reality is, it woke me up and to say, you know what, he's right. Like in 2 seconds, there's a list of 50 that apply for my position. So you know what, I am here, I am ready, and I am it. Like, I don't want people to go to other people when they need something. I want to be the one that responds to my boss's request. If I'm not, if I have an issue with the guy because he mistreated me, or the lady, she mistreated me for a certain reason, and I cannot solve the issue, then we try to solve it, like Andy said, we try to solve it. But if it goes to a level before, even before it goes to HR, loyalty is so important, Andy.
Yeah.
The moment that you go to HR, you're dead in some cases.
Yeah.
That is the final straw when it comes to certain things. If it's harassment, some other things, I understand. You have to go to HR. But when it comes to, complaining about somebody and your context, particularly if it's one of the big bosses, you better know that your days are counted, right, in that company. And you better have something lined up if you're planning on doing that. That happened to me a couple of times with people that they made some moves like that. They were X'd out immediately. A couple of months later, they were out. So just being real. Andy, I know we took a little bit of your time before, and everybody. By the way, Andy is a mentor at Apprentice Worldwide. He's here for us. He's not a speaker that leaves. He's a mentor that is part of our team that helps. We help each other succeed. This is what we do at Apprentice Worldwide. If you didn't notice, this is what we do. We help each other succeed, whatever it takes. We don't give up on each other, right? This is the only team that doesn't fire you. You carry on with you. It doesn't matter where you go. So I want you to be aware of this. This is what we do with each other. Any questions for Andy? Yes, sir. Victor.
I do have one.
Oh.
Alex.
Oh man, Andy, amazing job. I love your energy, your focus. Which 3 books are you reading, man? Because you are awesome.
I mean, shoot, I got we had a film shoot here today. Let me pull out my bag. Hold on.
And I noticed the Muhammad Ali poster too. I was like, oh man.
Yeah. We're doing a whole we had a whole film crew in here today for some marketing stuff we're doing. So right now I'm reading a few things. So I'm reading How to Change by Katie Milkman. I just finished this one. No Red Lights by Alan Patricoff. He's a venture capitalist. Just finished that one. I'm reading Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. But actually, I'd recommend this one for all of you, especially with the topic that we're talking about tonight. Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday is going to be a book that will impact you on so many levels. And obviously, a lot of you all are at the beginning stages of your career. It's a book you read now and you read again and again and again. And it's based on Marcus Aurelius, as you know, the Roman emperor, Meditations. That's another book that's really good. Then I just have some stuff I just ordered a Rick Ross's Hurricanes just because I'm from Miami, so I just got that.
That's what's up.
So I just got to read that just for the 305, and then I'm also what I just finished. I just finished another one. Brad Lee's The Hard Way. I read a lot. And then so and a really big book, especially guys, the biggest thing about your careers is going to be mental toughness, right? So obviously, like we said, but there's going to be situations that are just too far, right? But 99% of the time, it's not going to be too far. And especially, you got what does everybody say about your generation, right? The same thing is said about mine coming up. What do they say about Austin? What do people say about your generation? You're how old are you, Austin? 19, 20?
19.
You're 19. What do people say about your generation?
I don't know. I would say probably a little bit lazier than
Lazy, soft, right? Guess what
Yeah.
I said about my generation? I'm a millennial, right? Same thing, okay? God forbid I didn't have a World War II to go through to prove my toughness. All right. So now there's an old saying, right? Like, and I just read this last night and I forgot who said it. So I don't want to plagiarize or say it's an unknown quote because I forgot who said it, but it was basically the principle was like, it's not that the people before us were so much better than us, right? It's that they were forced into extraordinary circumstances, which then forced them to become extraordinary, right? So now for Austin, Madison, Emerson, like when you guys are doing your thing, put yourself in a position where you have to be extraordinary and then show your toughness, right? When you get rejected, you go again, right? When you make the phone call for the job interview, you go again. When you go for the promotion, you go again. When you get a project and that, I almost cursed because I promised I wouldn't, and I didn't want to lie. Yeah, I saw it coming out. when it's like, hey, like I want to go ahead and I want to, the project's due, it's June 13th, project's due by July 13th, right? I want to turn it ahead and it's got to be better than everybody else's, right? Ignacio, you just started your business. You're going above and beyond for your clients, right? I have a buddy of mine, he has a real estate business. He did $600,000 last month. You know what he did? He delivered personalized gift baskets to every single seller that he had, and he got customized business cards made that were metallic, right? Not like metallic writing, actual carved out of metal business cards, and he had it shipped to all of their homes, and he got the referrals from one seller because he spent $500 on business cards. One person was so impressed by his level of service and that they sent him one person who sent him 10 more properties, which is how he made the $600,000 in a month, right? So that's how you show it. You go after it and you go after it and you go after it. You're the first one in, you're the last one out. And this is old school advice, right? This sounds like advice from the 40s. Guess what? It still works. You want to hear 100% honest truth? The same person that's telling you we want you to have work-life balance, they mean it. They just mean right after our books are balanced, okay? Make sure that this revenue is driven.
That is so true.
Thank you.
I just said that to somebody. We are worried about your work-life balance, and I didn't say the second part.
Yeah.
But technically it's true, but you got to finish what you need to do.
Listen, because at the end of the day, listen, I got 2 kids. Going to Disney cost me $1,500. My brother's never been on vacation. He's 52 years old. I'm about to spend $7,000 to take my family to the Dominican Republic. I can't have a quote unquote work-life balance and accomplish these things. You know why my life is balanced? Because I'm busting my tail every single day to do what I need to do for my family and my community. I promised myself years ago that once I came into some real scratch, I'd pay off somebody's tuition, right? I don't have enough money to pay off $250,000 in tuition, but I finally have enough to where I went back to my high school and I dropped a nice chunk of change on the kid a couple of weeks ago. And guess what? When you put it out there, the company found out what I was doing and put some more money on top of that. And I gave a scholarship back to a kid literally from my same high school who's going to Syracuse University, right? Do I feel balanced? No. You know what I feel? I feel great. Okay? Because
You know why? Because if not, your Puerto Rican wife is gonna kick your butt.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's the thing, guys. Like you'll find balance when you find purpose, right? You're never, if your life is like super balanced, think about it. There's an old analogy I heard, right? Think about it. When a scale is at balance, what's the weight?
0.
Exactly. You want a 0 life? No. And another great piece of advice I got, which really put things in perspective for me a couple of years ago, was think about the people who are giving you this advice and think about where they are in their life, right? They already got $50-100 million in the bank, okay? When they were on the climb to that number, that's not what they were doing. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you find me one person who strictly worked 8 to 5 and didn't do anything extra and didn't give back to the community and didn't have a bigger purpose, who is living a life that you actually want to live and be honest about it. right? Sometimes your parents are giving you advice, right? I love my mama, okay? Love her to death, okay? But I don't take her advice on everything, okay? Sometimes my own wife, she's like, you're working too hard. I'm like, yeah, we also got to do this too, though. So if I don't do this, then we can't do this, right? And I know what I want the end of my life to look like, right? So I can't have what's a quote unquote balanced life. I have to do what truly makes me happy. And if working 8 to 5 works for you, great. But then be honest about what you want, right? If you're not willing to move, right? Like I have a saying, you can send me to Iraq, okay? Just make sure the life insurance is paid up, all right? Because at the end of the day, I have a plan. If X, Y, Z happens, I know what I want to accomplish. And a lot of you guys in here, you're very young. If you get an opportunity to move, move. If the company's saying we need you to do this, do it, right? Pay the dues now while you have less responsibility. You can work 20 hours a day and eat a Big Mac and feel like you just had a green juice and got 8 hours of sleep, because at some point you won't be able to keep up. These are the prime, like I'm still in my prime too, but ain't nothing like being 20, okay? I tell you right now, Austin, you can go out tonight and power tomorrow morning. If I come home at 4 a.m. tonight, I would be in the office at 7 and I'm going to my car to take a nap, okay? That's what I'm doing. So make sure you guys really take the opportunity seriously, put in the work, but like that whole like balance thing, man, it ain't for people who want to be great. It's just not. And look at any Jordan, Phelps, business people, right? Like the Warren Buffetts of the world, like read his book Snowball, even Steve Jobs. I'm not telling you go out, I'm be honest, Steve Jobs was a a-hole, right? I'm not telling you to be like that guy, but look at what he accomplished and look at the work he had to put in. Go to the people at the companies you're at right now and look at the CEO of that company and ask them what they did. And for people who have like their own businesses like Ignacio, go to the top person in your industry and ask them if they work 8 to 5. They're going to tell you yes so that you don't, so that they can just buy your business in a few years. That's what's going to happen to you.
By the way, this guy's on a roll, man. Let's give him a round of applause here because this is amazing stuff. Andy, I love you, brother. We have 2 more questions, but we got to go, okay? There's some people that got to do stuff, okay?
Gotcha.
Emerson, if it's quick, I know Bobby had a question, and then the other ones you might have to send them to me via WhatsApp. So Emerson.
Well, thank you so much, Hernan. And thank you so much, Andy, as well. Honestly, love the authenticity and also the vulnerability. Thanks for sharing your own story and bringing into, any professional advice that you have. For context, so I just finish up and wrap up my job working on organizational development in a nonprofit, so training people and all that. And I took this opportunity because I knew for myself it was going to be a really good way for me to learn how to work with people and also manage relationships and all those different things. But I want to make a career shift into analyst type roles and economic consulting, that sort of work. I looked at your LinkedIn profile as well, saw that you went from health sciences to sales to wherever it is, break Comcast, so many different places. I want to ask you, right, do you feel like you found your calling? And, what did it take for you to move from industry to industry to find what you thought, you were meant to do?
Yeah, great question. So I bounced around a lot, right? So a big part of that for me, so I actually I graduated from high school. I went to a medical magnet high school. I started off as a biomedical engineering major. And I was like, to hell with this. Like, I didn't like it at all, right? Like, it wasn't even like, oh, it's hard. I was like, I don't want to do this, right? So I went, because my mom was like, oh, you got to finish college. So I dropped out, right? And I was like, I was working, I was going to school, and my friend was working for a company, and I had money saved for us to go to Amsterdam. And then he was like, let's start a business instead. And that's what we did. And we had a really good run. We did like over $1 million our first. We did some millions in our years in business. And that path just kind of took me on this road. I was like, hey, like I want to try different things and I want to see. And I was like, hey, I haven't really found my fit yet, right? So the way I came into real estate was, one, I'm like, I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, right? And then once I saw behind the scenes, I was like, oh, like a lot of the wealth is controlled by people who own the real estate, right? Like when I started looking up, especially once I understood it, I'm like, what are all these LLCs and stuff? And I started learning about the industry, and I'm going to real estate meetups, and I'm seeing the dude who lives in Aventura in a penthouse is the guy who owns all the houses in the neighborhood that I grew up in, right? So, and then on top of that too, it was just common sense. And I was like, okay, cool. I was a stockbroker for a little bit, and then I was doing that. And I remember I went to my boss and I was like, hey, like, what if we buy this mutual fund, make fuel money? And I literally got laughed at. And the dude was like, you think we make fuel money? And I was like, well, this is definitely the wrong job, right? No, I was at the wrong firm too. So I'll put that out there. But like, it was also a real thing, right? And then I was doing some other things and I wasn't passionate. And when I came here, I like to help people. And it was a perfect mix of, I can help young people make a bunch of money, and I can help people with their properties, and I make a bunch of money too, and I'm still in the financial sector, because being connected to the revenue stream of your business and the economy is super important. And in some companies, you're gonna feel like it's right there and you can't grab it. When you're directly in the financial services, you have the perfect opportunity to find a way to help people and grab your piece of the American pie, right? So it's really important that you do experiment a little bit. Sometimes you're gonna have a straight path, right? But at the end of the day, like there was like the old Bezos thing, the regret minimization matrix. We're all gonna be 80, 90 years old one day, right? Everybody is, and we're all gonna kick the bucket. Don't look back and be like, I didn't do something I wanted to do. The key thing though is, wherever you go, keep your face clean, keep your name clean. You should always be known as the hardest working person in the room. I wouldn't have been recruited back here if I was some slouch, okay? You know how hard it is to be recruited back to a job and get a promotion? Like, because normally it's like a relationship. That probably didn't work out. No, it was like, hey, like, do you want to come back and we'll give you a promotion, right? So it's important that you maximize the opportunity, learn as much as you can, keep your face clean, and keep those relationships going. Because you might not know how your new opportunity can tie into the old one. Now you're bringing two companies together, and that nonprofit experience, man, I'm telling you, the way you understand the nonprofit sector, when you bring that in to the for-profit sector, and you actually look, it's important to care about people, but don't be like a quote unquote bleeding heart. There's like people have to make money. Nonprofits don't get money if people are broke. They get their money from people with money. Okay, so let's put that out there. Okay, understanding the nonprofit sector, and then a little bit of government and that for-profit, you're like an assassin. People love people with that combo in the business world because it's a rare combination.
By the way, you're talking about non-for-profit, and it's something that is interesting. Whatever you want your role to be, you volunteer to do it, right? So if you want to run a company, volunteer to run a company, non-for-profit, become part of a board. You know, if you want to do marketing, do your own company and do marketing. You know, you gotta do the things. Somebody always told me, you know, if I want to be a banker, who do I want to hang out with? Bankers, right? All of you, I don't know about you, but most of the people that go to college, they tell me, no, I want to study finance. How many finance people do you know? Oh, my peers. No, join the financial association in your city and become part of the equation. Become part of real estate groups. Become part of marketing groups. This is where you're gonna really know if this is what you like or not. If you're hanging out with your peers, you know, that's what somebody told. You're gonna get advice from another 20-year-old or from a 40-year-old that has been through your. Don't get me wrong. I mean, 20-year-olds have good advice as well, but you need perspective, right? Perspective. If you're only hanging with the people your age, you're not gonna gain perspective. So volunteering is how I met most of my bosses. That's how I got at least 4 of my jobs were through volunteers. I just showed up in places that nobody showed up in. I was the only young guy there. So guess what? You're it, Hernan. You're it. So at any rate, I want to give another round of applause to Andy. Thank you, brother. By the way, I recorded this, so we'll share it later on. We don't have time for questions. We got to leave. But I want to introduce you to some people that are here. Mary is part of our team as well. Mary from Zambia in Africa is here as well. She's one of our interns. Anastasia is from Haiti, but she actually lives in Miami, and it's another one of our interns. And then Armin, I saw him. He's right there. He's right there, baby. Mari Carmen, you guys connect, okay? He was like, oh, no, I send a LinkedIn. Don't send a LinkedIn. This is it. These are my friends, right? Next week, we're going to have Monica Onisic. So Monica is our regional executive for North America for Apprentice Worldwide. She works at Raymond James. She's had a phenomenal 25-year career in finance. And she's going to talk about something that you guys might like is how to negotiate your benefits, when to ask for a salary increase, what to ask for, you know, when you're doing a good job or a bad job, right? What is the timing? How to time conversations with your bosses. This is important, and this might be the key for you making 60,000 or 100,000, right? How do you bring it up? When do you bring it up? Those are strategies that we're going to talk about. And then one thing that I want you to do this week is, if you have not connected with your mentor, this is it. We are in crunch time now. Now you have to meet. And what I'll suggest with you is make sure that you set the same time every week. No, okay, I'm going to see you next week. Okay, when do we arrange? No, before you're done in your next conversation, okay, we're going to meet at 8:30 every morning, not every morning, but every week at 8:30 on Tuesdays, and set that time. All you need is 15 minutes to 30 minutes. That's it. These people are busy, right? You want to grab and be prepared in your meeting. Like, man, I heard that you're doing this and that and doing this. What can you tell me and how can I help you, right? What I want you to consider yourself is as a consultant. So you are going to go there, analyze the situation, and help your mentor solve problems, right? If you think that I'm going to give you necessarily what to do, and you don't come up to me with some sort of added value, then I'm going to start thinking that you are not the right person for me necessarily. And that's what people might think of you when you're working, right? They're going to give somebody else the big projects, the good projects. I'm not talking about, my intern. My intern is phenomenal. I have two interns. I have Sanika and I have Daniela, who's working as a marketing analyst as well. The point is, you guys have to come up with the fun ideas ahead of time so that you can get these people excited. Who knows, by the way, who knows if these people might have a connection in the area that you want to be in. Either, you're going to work for them, or you're going to work in the area that is similar. These people are super connected. If you look at my LinkedIn, some people think, oh no, he only knows bankers. Boy, are you wrong, right? Some of my clients were some of the top companies in the world. And by the way, where do you think I get the mentors from, right? There's a lot of finance, but there's a lot of real estate. There's a lot of CEOs, entrepreneurs, right? And I bring them because these are the people I want to hang out with. And by the way, this is important. Look at yourselves. These are people that you want to hang out with, right? For the rest of your life. The people that are highly motivated and pushing you to go to the next level, right? I like to be pushed. I like to be pushed because sometimes in 2017, when I got fired twice by Wells Fargo and Banesco, I could have rested my laurels and cried, and I did cry for a little bit. But then my friends, the mentors that are here, just, Hernan, let's go to a networking event. Let's go, right? And this is what kept me afloat. We don't have time for any questions, but Andy, where can they find you?
I put my LinkedIn in the chat a little bit earlier. I'll resend it now. Yeah, just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, guys. Obviously, I'm in the chat too. Anybody wants to link up, feel free to hit me up if you're here locally. We'll grab lunch is kind of tough for me right now, but if you guys want to grab a dinner, I'm constantly going to events and stuff. So, as Fernando said, I'm always out and about town. I actually had to slow it out a little bit because I hadn't seen my family in a few weeks. So, but I'm constantly going out. I normally have to hook up for an event. So if you guys want to go get some experience about anything here locally, just let me know. And if the next event I go to, I'll be happy to bring you guys along. Some of them are free. Some of them are hey, I know this is an internship. I know a lot of you guys in college don't have much money. So as long as there's nothing crazy like one of these $10,000 ones, I'll be happy to cover the cost for you. So, all right.
Listen, God bless. Happy wife, happy life. I gotta do the same thing. I gotta go. Guys, I see you next week. Hopefully you loved what you heard, and then you're enjoying your time with your mentors. If you have any questions, Genesis, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
We're ready to help. No, you and I are gonna help these people get connected.
Yeah.
And but you do not stop. He doesn't answer your LinkedIn, send an email. If he doesn't answer the email, call. Don't text first. Call first. And then if they don't answer your call, you text them. Okay. But you're relentless. Don't stop. Okay, until you connect. You're gonna find out that these people are amazing, loving, caring. They are here as volunteers. They wouldn't sign up to to give you an internship if they didn't want to help you. So the secret here is that everybody has a good heart. You just have to find it, okay? Guys, take care. Have a good week. Call me if you need me, okay?
Yeah.
All right, thanks
Thank
everybody.
you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.